today to show you how to make a peach pie. Best peaches I've had in a long time. All right, so I have my peaches that I'm cutting up, and I'm peeling them first over the bowl. What I like to do to get every bit of goodness and get no waste is to take this pit that I could no longer cut anything from and literally wring it out. Once I have 4 cups, we're going to have to add just a few things to make them a little more sort of pie suitable. So I will get back to you in a minute. 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. I just use the flatware that we eat from. Mix this with about 1/4 cup of fruit juice. Now we're going to mix this up as directed until it's nice and smooth. It's hard to see that. And then we're going to blend it with our sweetener, in this case cane sugar, pure cane sugar. That's this. And it says 2/3 of a cup to a cup. You know what? These peaches are really sweet, so I'm going to put in about 2/3 or less. These peaches don't need a lot of help. Mix that up until it's nice and smooth. And then we're going to pour that over our peaches. I just want to show you that I have comment. You're such a good boy. My trusty companions to fend off peach pie wranglers. Oh, Maisie hears me talking about that. Are you going to help me with peach pie wranglers? Are you going to help me with peach pie wranglers? So now on to the pie. I know how to make pie crust by heart by now because I've done it for so long. We are going to use 2 cups of all-purpose white flour, teaspoon of salt. It's a pastry cutter. I am going to mix that salt into the flour, and then we now need to add our fat. I just use Crisco shortening and a little bit of butter. So they would like, the authors of Joy of Cooking. Do you hear my chickens out there? I think they just laid an egg. They get noisy when they do that. Nobody knows exactly why. Okay, so I kind of eyeball this, but the best way to do it is through water displacement. Here comes our chemistry. So I have my shortening, and I have 1 1/3 cup of cold water in here. Water displacement is done like this, through the addition of ingredients, right? So you take a lump of shortening and you add it until the water comes up and reaches the 2 cups. Why? Because I have 1 in this is about 2/3 cup of fat. I like to be generous with it, otherwise I think Throw in a little more. It can be a, I don't know, flat, uninteresting tasting crust. Put in about a teaspoon of butter as well. Now you take your pastry cutter, and this is where you start working that fat into the pastry. Yes, every now and then you're going to have to clear off your pastry cutter of the fat and sort of continue along. So you can see that I'm getting there. It is getting blended, but it is not blended enough. The chunks in there are still, I would say, a little bit too big. They're more pea size, and I think it should be more somewhere in between pea size and cornmeal size. Now, the next part, the last ingredient, the addition of water, is also important, because when you have 3 or 4 ingredients in one thing, each ingredient is super important, because all you have are 3 or 4. They all have a story to tell, and that's called Yum, Get in My Mouth, You Pie. Cold water keeps the pastry crust flaky. How much? I put in about 1, 2, 3 splashes. That might see how it's sticking on itself, and I don't have a lot left along the sides of the bowl. And now I know this dough is about ready to handle. We're going to lay down a lot of flour on this. We're going to split this into 2 equal, more or less size balls. Do not handle it much. That's about as much as I'm going to handle it, because once you start handling it more, it makes the crust tough. You don't want tough. You want flaky. My flour. You can see I'm putting quite a bit down here, because I'm going to take my first ball. That's it for touching. Put it on that floured surface, a little bit more flour on top. Time to roll. This is what I do to get it into the pie dish. I take the dough and I roll it up onto the actual roller. I like using 9-inch Pyrex. Metal's good too if you want a nice deep dark crust. And then I unroll it into the dish and fix any areas that might kind of be pulling apart. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the peaches, which I've stirred a few times over these last 10 minutes. I'm going to pour them into the pie crust, and I like to mound it up, sort of push it around a little bit to get it settled. Next, we have to do the lattice. Lattice is the crisscross shape of dough that you sometimes see on top of a pie. And the reason they do that on berry pies is to let the steam escape from all that fruit, or you'd end up with a soggy crust and pie. I'll cut off the edge of this so that it's quite straight, and then start cutting about 1.5 inch strips like so. So the way I lattice the pie is I take every other piece. Think about making pot holders when you were a kid. Oh, let's start from this side. Every other piece, and I pull it back, and I lay a dough under it. And then I put those pieces back. Now, this piece that's underneath here, this cross piece, I am going to pull that piece back, and the one lying underneath this, pull that piece back and lay another strip about 1 inch away. And then close it back up. Every piece that is lying underneath the cross piece gets peeled back for their turn, and then I lay a new piece across. It truly is like making a pot holder when you were a kid. You have all these pieces laying around the edge. You really don't want an awful thick crust. And so I am cutting away close to, but not up against, that edge of the pie dish. Watch. Pinch. Did you see that? Pinch. Pinch. Don't want to go around and try to pinch that more perfectly, because the more you handle this, the tougher it's going to get. Goes in this oven at 450. I'm going to set this timer for just about 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, I'm going to turn the temperature down to 350 and cook it for about another 30 minutes or more. So we'll get back to you in a minute. Hi guys. So we are at our friend's house.
We're the friends.
Joe and Jody invited us for dinner. Very lovely, delicious grilled shellfish. Let's take a look.
That's beautiful. Whoa, that's amazingly nice. Look at that.
Culmination of our peach pie. I think it's going to be pretty good. Bye.